Hello, tiny friends, and welcome to Tiny Keyhole Minis. I'm Jolene, and today I will be giving this corner space here a new look, and I will be creating a new miniature to replace that letterbox. So this letterbox here is going to be going, and I will use it later on down the road, but I'm going to create something completely new that I'm super excited about. This was a fun project. And I just feel like this is how it used to look when they were younger. But now that the couple is older, the house is older, it's not as young as it used to be, things need to be a little bit older. So I am going to give this space a new look to be a bit more cohesive. And I am using my heat gun to warm up this glue here to remove the letterbox. Now I have my heat gun on low, and if you try something like this, you'd never have done it before, just be super careful. But I'm just giving it a little blast of heat, and in the process of this I actually melt that little sticker, that letter sticker, but that's okay because it was probably gonna go anyway. And no worries with that, tiny friends. But I'm just taking one of my Sculpey tools here and just loosening it up a bit. I'm actually going to have to go back in with another blast of heat to remove it before it actually pops off. So I'm just loosening it up. I'm not trying to pry it off the wall at this point. So just be careful if you're doing this. I guess this teaches me that I should be using tacky wax or museum wax and not glue. But there it is. It's popping off for me here. Lesson learned. Okay, tiny friends, so don't you worry your pretty little hearts about that wallpaper that came off with the letterbox, because that is just going to be added, into the look of everything. So I'm not worried. You don't be worried. And now I'm going to put the hall tree back into place. I just want to show you some of the ideas that I'm having. I'm thinking maybe a picture or maybe a mirror. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to put some frames up and get some ideas. And I've got this large frame here that's perfect size. And I've got a variety of frames. I am also going to be placing a wall clock. It's an antique metal wall clock, and I've aged it up to tone it down some. But I'm just trying out these frames here because I'm not really sure if I should go with a picture or a mirror. So I do like this frame because this is the biggest frame that I have and it fits really well. And so from this point I need to decide on if it's going to be a picture or a mirror. I'm going to choose to go with a mirror because it will make more sense sitting next to the hall tree, but I really did like that square frame, so you'll see that sitting somewhere else around the house. Now this is the antique clock that I've aged, and I used a solution that I learned from my tiny friends at Little Gretchen's workshop, and it's acrylic paint mixed with alcohol, and I really do like using this better than acrylic and water as a wash for aging and distressing, because it really takes a good grip on metal pieces. So if you haven't given that a try yet, I think you might really like it. So I'm just turning this just to try and figure out if I want to put it horizontally or vertically. I liked both, but I do decide to go vertically with it, tiny friends. And this is super exciting because this was a fun project, so I'm super excited to see, show you what this comes out to be like. So I'm just playing. I got some tacky wax on it, and I'm using my paper Era here because I want to make sure that it's the right height. So if she were to stand there, you would see how much of yourself you can see. So I'm just using her, but then I realized, gosh, she looks so small, and I'm like, is she 112? So she's 112. Is my house 112? So I'm just playing with her. But yep, this is what it's going to be. We're happy with it. Okay, so I'm going to take the frame on the wall and I'm going to turn it into an antique carved wood mirror. So I'm going to be using these silicone molds and my Das air dry clay. Now, I just started working with these two materials about a year ago, and I really had to do some research to find some really good tips on how to do this. But I'm going to go with the second design, and what I learned was it was really helpful to use small bits of clay at a time while you're trying to get that clay into these intricate little molds here. They have so much detail to them, but I'm just packing it in there and I am working it, like kind of spreading it outwards, and I'm just pushing down, but I'm going from the edges and I'm pushing in towards the middle. And there's some really good videos out there for this, so if you try this for the first time, just have a little patience and don't get discouraged, because I started to get a little frustrated because I couldn't get the molds to pop out, and or the clay to pop out, and it was sticking to the mold and ruining my design and breaking on me. But I did learn some good tips that I'm going to share. So the first tip I learned to eliminate that, and it was an easy fix. You just apply a small amount of heat. So if you have, you can pop it in your convention oven, you can pop it in a toaster oven. Those two would probably be a low temp, like 210, 225, somewhere around there. You can use a hair dryer, you can use a heat gun on low, and you just apply a small amount of heat for just a few minutes. These things will pop right out. If you want it to be a little bit more flexible, where you can still work with it, say you want to put it, wrap it around a bottle or a piece of furniture, and you need it to just bend on you a little bit, or you need to shape it, then you just pop it in or just leave the heat on it for about 3 to 5 minutes. And since I've done that, I have not had a problem with these things popping out. If you are breaking a piece of clay off of the block and you're working with the piece you broke off, you definitely want to keep it wrapped up in a wet wipe or a moist paper towel, some sort of damp cloth to keep it from drying out on you, because it will begin to dry out on you. If it starts to dry out on you while you're working it into the mold, just moisten your fingers. You can keep a little bottle or a little container of water next to you and wet your fingers and just run it right along the back of it, and then you'll be able to work it in. You really don't want it to be like tacky and super wet. You just want it to be slightly damp. So it is definitely a good idea to keep this kind of clay wrapped up tight in an air dry freezer baggie or airtight container, which reminds me, I have mine in a freezer baggie, but I really want to put it in an airtight container, so that's really going to be best. I also learned that some of your clay might be thinner, some of the areas might be a little bit thinner than others, and those are going to be prone to break more. So that comes with practice. I do know that. Trying to get it packed in as even as you can so that it's a nice solid piece. That will definitely come with practice. But it does get easier, I promise you. The more you work with it, if you want to give it a try, I encourage you to, because it will get easier and you'll get better at it. Okay, so I'm just smoothing this down and then just trying to get it nice and even. I'm going to take this little piece here. I'm going to be using this one as well. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pack it in there. And, you know, sometimes some of my areas are thinner and sometimes they're good to go. But I'm going to use my hair dryer because I had an epiphany. I didn't need to use my toaster oven. I have a hair dryer and it worked great. So I'm only using it on a medium setting, and I'm just putting it on here for about 2 minutes. Now normally I would put it on for like 3 to 4, maybe 5, but I'm doing the video, so I'm just gonna be super careful while I'm trying to pop these out. And another thing, because I didn't leave it in as long as I would normally do it, I'm going to show you how you can carefully remove these if you're leaving them in for a very short time like I am. I'm just going to flip them over and face them down, and then I'm going to slowly start to roll back the mold. Now these molds are a little bit softer than the pink molds, so they're easier to roll back, but you can still roll the pink ones back. They're just a little stiffer. But as I'm rolling it back, I'm pushing it down with my thumb. I'm pushing the clay out carefully with my thumb. And this is where you really want to take your time and just go slow. So I'm just rolling it back carefully and slowly and pushing that clay out as I roll back. And I think I'm gonna get this one. I think I have it. Till the very end. I'm almost there. And it looks pretty good. I was kind of excited because I thought I was gonna get through this without it breaking on me. But at the very end, tiny friends, it's gonna stick to my finger. And so that's where I'm seeing it's a little bit thinner in that area. But it's totally okay because I just break the rest of the strip up into little pieces, and I'm just going to move the pieces around and play with them and just come up with my own design on this. So I'm perfectly fine with it. If your piece breaks, just get creative and work with it. That's all. That's all you can do, right? So I'm just going to figure out how I want these to lay on my mirror, how I want them to lay together, and I'm just going to kind of try and push them as close as possible. Now, two things. When this clay dries, it's going to turn white and it's going to shrink a little. So you kind of want to, if you're working with broken pieces like I am, you kind of want to get them and try and fuse them as much as you can without smushing it, because it's kind of like dries like frosting, how sometimes frosting will sit out and it'll dry and get that slight like stiff crisp to it. I think that's kind of what this stuff does, pretty much in the same sense. So you don't want to apply too much pressure to it. You want to be careful because you can flatten out your design. But for the most part, it's pretty easy to work with. You just don't want to be too heavy-handed. And I am, but I have learned to be careful with this clay. And it is still delicate, as you can see, even if you have a nice thick piece, you still got to handle it with care. And tiny friends, I'm talking quietly because my household is asleep right now, and I have an open concept house, so everything is super loud. But I've noticed that when I'm doing my recordings or my audios during different times, you know, you can probably tell the difference when I'm doing it during the day versus the nighttime. So I'm just going to figure out a little design here, and I'm going to jump forward. Okay, so this looks good to me. I'm going to use these 3 pieces from my first mold on the top of the mirror, and then I'm going to use these pieces here on the bottom of the mirror. Now, I am going to be using my Gorilla wood glue to attach these pieces on, and it's a really, really good glue to use with this clay if you want to attach it to other pieces, especially if you're attaching it to glass. Use some wood glue. You don't need very much. Make sure you spread it on there nice and even, and just give a nice thin coat. If you let it sit for a few minutes, it gets nice and tacky. It attaches right away. So I'm using wood glue, and I'm just putting them together, just like so. Okay, so this is what the top part's looking like so far, and I'm going to work on the bottom here. And I just wanted to show you how I connect these two together. I'm just going to push them as close as I can together and give this a little trimming on the end here. And it kind of feels like frosting, like dried frosting or crusty frosting. So I'm just going to push them close together, as close as I can, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so now it's time to give it a nice base coat of black acrylic. So I'm just going to give it a nice coat and get in all these nooks and crannies here and just give it full coverage. But you'll see any spots that you miss, because when it shrinks up a little, you'll see all the little white spots that you can go in and touch up behind it. So this part I thought I was recording and I was not, so I'm just going to tell you what I did. Now, I painted it with a milk chocolate brown. I have 3 colors here. I have a milk chocolate brown, I have some of that color that I mixed up for the whole tree, and a little bit of white. And I took my paintbrush and I painted all the flat parts of the frame. So I did not use my brush on the clay. I only went around in the nooks and crannies and on the sides and all around where the frame was flat. And then I took my sponge and I went in with the same brown and I dabbed it on the clay mold. So no brush on the clay, just the sponge dab. And that's because I wanted that black to come seeping through those grooves and carved areas. Now I'm going to add some white to both colors, and I'm just going to go in with a dry brushing and bring out some more of that detail and give it a little bit of highlighting. So I'm going to begin with this goldish color and just brush it on there randomly. You're going to begin to see it start to pop out. So I'm not really thinking about it, it's just all random, a little bit here, a little bit there. And this is really going to draw out the details of this carved, fake, faux carved wood here. So now I'm going to go in with the tan lighter milk chocolate shade, and here you can see it's really beginning to pop right out. So that was it. This was the last step in creating the frame. Okay, tiny friends, so let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think it looks like carved wood. I absolutely love the way that it came out, and I will definitely be doing more antique carved wood in the future. And now that you know how to make these frames, you can use them for pictures, you can use them for mirrors, you can do furniture this way. Okay, so for the mirrored sheets, these mirrored sheets that I found off of Amazon are super good. They're super easy to cut with scissors, they're pretty thick, and they look just like real glass mirrors. So they're flexible mirrored sheets. You get a 4-pack. They're 6x9 sheets, and I purchased this off of Amazon. I will leave the link in the description box below if you're in need of these or if you want to purchase these. I'm not sure how much I paid for them. I don't think they were too much, but I do know they were worth whatever I paid, because these things are like real mirror, and they cut super easy with scissors. So I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to trace on the back side, on the white side of the back here. And I'm just tracing out the inside of the frame where my mirror is going to show. And then I'm going to trace it again, only I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch larger on this one. And this is where I'll have the part that I can glue onto the frame. So once I get that traced out, I'm just going to trim it down, and then I'm going to cut my piece out. And I am using my curved tip scissors, and they're kind of dull, but they still cut pretty easy. And my dry fit, and it's pretty perfect. So that's all I need, although I don't get it glued down that perfect. but this I'll save for smaller pieces. Okay, so see how foggy it is now? Look at this. Look at that reflection. It looks so real. So definitely worth investing in some of these. Okay, so I'm going to use some tacky glue, and you can use wood glue, but I'm using tacky glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit right around the inside opening here. And I'm not trying to go too far out because I know I don't have that much remaining. So after I get this spread out, I'm just going to use my finger and run it around because I don't want it to seep onto the front of my mirror. Okay, tiny friends, my house is now alive and awake. I hope you've enjoyed this video today, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up, click that like button. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this faux antique carved wood mirror. And normally I would use this brown craft paper as a backing for my mirrors or pictures, but I'm going to skip that step for this and just attach it to the wall. Now I'm going to go in with some chalk pastels and do some aging on the wall, and then I'm going to finish this off with a photo montage of the entire project from beginning to end. So I want to thank all my subscribers and thank everybody for watching. Until the next time, tiny friends, you all have a lovely day. Bye-bye.